Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's actually still with us in 2024. Happy New Year to everybody. We're very happy to be all together again. And we have a good friend for all of us and a very welcome guest here with us today with Todd Asevedo. And we're excited to have you. Todd has been working with all of us for a couple of years, I would say. And here I'm slightly...
Just a couple.
Just a couple, just not to make me feel too old. And we have been having fun recently in discussing all the new things that are coming up and all the new things that are impossible. Todd is an expert in payroll choices, payroll implementation, payroll decisions, and he is a sci-fi payroll fan. So please welcome Todd with me, and of course Sherry and Luke as my partners in crime.
Thanks, Chiara. Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Good to have you.
That's not quite the introduction you'd want to do at a dinner party, though.
No. Well,
people be like running the other direction. I usually tell people, they go, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm going to give you 2 minutes. If you want any more, I'll give you the 5-minute version." After 2 minutes, everybody just like, I need a new drink.
Yeah. Yeah, but they like to be paid.
They do like to be paid correctly, yeah. And then they start going into the payroll questions, and we all know how that goes.
Yeah, that goes all down the drain. So what has been keeping you busy these days, Todd, beyond dinner parties?
Yeah, focusing on some next generation payroll technologies and listening to customers talk about what their plans are for 2024. And I mean, as much as you want to get away from it, it's hard to get away from those 2 letters that seem to take over 2023. They're still front and center in 2024.
Starting with an A and finishing with an I, randomly?
That might be them. It used to be an M and an L, and then it's turned to an A and an I.
Let's just see. Are we dealing with Memorex here, Todd, or is this the real Todd?
Right. No, you don't want to. That's no bad words. Yeah.
We're not having a podcast for children. We don't have to. We have to be appropriate, but nothing more. So you mentioned AI because you did say the 2-letter words. We're not anymore in 4-letter words. We are in 2-letter words. So what do you see as an impact of AI on payroll? Because logistically sounds not really based on artificial intelligence. It should be on real intelligence, no?
I mean, if you do the data right, you have to have that data, and you and I have talked about that before. And certainly Sherry and Luke, you guys spend a lot of time with customers, so I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. But I can tell you the one thing where I don't hear people talking about it that surprises me, and it doesn't surprise me because it's not really a end customer impact necessarily, but more a payroll operations or payroll business impact, is this idea of deploying AI as a tool to help customers with transparency of their data and with moving data from one legacy technology to a new technology without a lot of manual intervention, right? So let's say you're on payroll system A that's maybe 30 years old, and you're at payroll system B that's brand new. The AI should be able to help that process, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But we've kind of put on our space helmets and said, why can't we point the AI or machine at a folder with payroll results from a year of payroll results, pay statements, if you will, from last year, and have it figure out what the earnings codes and the deduction codes and all of the organizational setup is, and then maybe inform a robotic script to set up a new payroll system.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's
what a time saver.
Yeah, that's coming, right? So it's not the thing that most people will, focus on, like an employee dialing in and saying, I don't understand my payroll, how you went gross to net. Like that's we hear that a lot with AI, but this is more point in time, behind the curtain type of use case. And I know Luke has done some great work in that regard around onboarding. And I think payroll is ripe for the discussion.
Absolutely.
That is actually awesome. There's so many thankless tasks in HR. No one would even know that we did that, but that really holds back a lot of innovation by companies, a lot of change.
Well, payroll is expensive to get set up and implemented and to run. So anything that can simplify any of those aspects improves the ROI, helps customers to be able to do other different stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can imagine most companies don't want to be spending money to pay people money, but it's just a natural part of business.
Yeah, well,
and it's like customers are trying to make savings all over the place wherever they can, so that they can better utilize resources on the things that technology can't do.
Right. Yeah. This is kind of a behind the scenes use case. There's, blockchain is another behind the scene use case. But we're looking at transparency, and I always go, when I think of transparency, I think of the impact on the end customer, the employee, right? With the EWA being something that a lot of people are talking about, and real-time payroll and kind of how they go together. Those use cases are interesting, and I think that'll go a long way to payroll being part of the employee experience effort. But there's so much more behind the scenes for payroll practitioners that are point in time, data integrity. Kiara and I were just talking about master data management and AI being kind of like, we talk a lot about AI like it's the curtains and the dishes and the appliances, and it's like all the cool stuff. But AI also has a place at the concrete that's underneath the house, right? I mean, you need to make sure that your data management and governance is well articulated. Otherwise, the rest of it doesn't matter, right? I mean, the garbage in, garbage out is huge with AI.
Oh, sometime in the past I called it, we can run faster with the AI, but we might run in the wrong direction, which is not a good idea.
But that all depends on your data. So what's interesting about what Todd's saying is that you can actually use AI at the start of the process to make the process better. First, for migration. And secondly, as you're running your system, I mean, with self-service and people putting their own data in, who knows what they're putting in? If you could validate that, if you could use AI to validate that data and do checks on things, that would be huge.
I'd love to see.
We're a combination of AI and blockchain.
Right.
I think
well, you know what? We haven't heard about blockchain in over a year, so
that's the initials from a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, it's old.
But I think it will come back. Like all things, they may come back with a different name, but they will come back. But I do see the complexity of data quality are huge in our big systems, and being able and doing it manually eats up so much time, so much effort regularly. And payroll is based on that. Every other activity in the company is based on the data, and without the right data. Now, how can we use, and what kind of use cases, and how do we design an AI application that actually leverage what we know to figure out what is wrong? And that's my question in general for the next steps, because that would facilitate many things. So.
Yeah. Another thing that's coming down the pipe that I see that our customers are struggling with is just the pace of localized governance and the rules that these countries are coming up with to change the way payroll's been done locally within that country, right? And then how does an organization that's multinational understand and adopt these new policies, this new government and governance and compliance, and how do they communicate to their employee what the impact is on the employee, right? So that if you think about using AI to consume governance or new compliance from a country, and then
Sure
to see
do
who
that.
within the organization is impacted, what the impact is, and explaining the impact to each of those employees personally in a personalized way. That's completely within the scope of AI. So
Yeah.
it's within its, within its capability anyway. So I think the way we consume or administer as a payroll administrator, like the consumption of all this new compliance the things that are coming at us super fast, I think that's going to probably be another interesting use case that, again, the end user won't see, but it will allow the payroll operations people to do more with less.
Well, what's interesting is we're really probably coming to a point with where all those payroll experts that knew what they were doing in their payroll departments, and not artificially, but actually intelligently knew where they're probably retiring, and it's tough to get someone to replace that knowledge. It's so deep and so extensive.
Yeah.
But now we have AI.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure it has a depth and the human depth there, but it will get there. But that makes me think also that, in fact, Todd, we just went full circle, because we started discussing how AI could help consolidation results from different vendors. And oftentimes I've seen that global implementation leverage multiple vendors. You may have one vendor in one subsidiary in South Africa and have a completely different set in Latin America. The difficulty of consolidating those two from different vendors with different legal rules is huge. But for a global enterprise, it's critical, because that means being able to compare labor costs. And here we're going full circle, saying you can get both, ideally. Maybe we will be able to get both. Is that a pipe dream, maybe? But
we're sci-fi, right?
Yeah, we're sci-fi. In a moment, we'll have an alien coming down and visiting us. I may have to add a little alien thing.
I'm sorry, Kara. It would be awesome. I'm just thinking about my 4-letter pain point, time. It would be awesome if AI could really solve that challenge, because nobody can build a good time system so far, because it all depends on the data they have, and it's garbage. Most of it's garbage. We've been paying people wrong for years, right? And we don't know it.
And the compliance factor as well is heavy.
Yep. Yes.
I mean, there's a real opportunity for global payroll by being able to utilize cloud technology, service delivery, having a lean system that is easy to get stood up, where vendors can push out content into those systems. Then combining that with AI can mean it can become much more cost effective, much cheaper to implement payroll in these smaller countries, so that a lot of companies can just implement one system for almost all of their countries, instead of having to go, well, I've got to use this cheap one over here because I've only got like 200 employees here. Well, over here, US, I got 20,000 employees, no problem. I can afford any system. And so they have to use these myriad of systems, and they can't do data reporting. So with some of these capabilities that are existing today, and bringing them all together could really create an opportunity for customers to have a much more simplified payroll landscape, with much a better ability to do data reporting on that, and have much better control over costs and all of that from a global level.
Yeah, it used to be in the past. I know when I was at Air Products, the big thing was we had to have a payroll specialist for every single country. In theory, you wouldn't need that.
Right. Yeah, you just need a data manager, right? So, or somebody that really understands where the data is coming from and where it's going. Yeah, I get to, one of the funner things in my job is I get to talk to new technology or emerging technology companies, and we figure out how we're going to make their story part of our customers go to market. And there is a new burgeoning kind of a player that's an integration player, where I think the hardest part for me is like not understanding exactly how it works, because it's all kind of behind the curtain. But they're using AI to look at unstructured data from multiple sources and make it so that the novice user, back to your point, Sherry, about like how are we going to replace these really smart, very experienced payroll professionals. But the tools are getting so much easier and abstracting the complexity, like they're keeping the complexity behind the walls, but they're saying, oh, this piece of data means this piece of data means that. And then all of a sudden the integration builds itself. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen some prototypes. Yeah. It is very mind blowing, but somebody had 7 different HR systems feeding one payroll system. And this tool, in this case, it was like it was a very small company that did payroll outsourcing for a region of countries, right? So one region, each country was completely different, but they were able to take the 7 HR systems and boil it into one payroll system and really do it very simply by abstracting the complexity with that AI tool. Again, the scary part for me is I'm used to knowing, and like as you guys all are, I want to know how it works. I mean, I'm not there.
Well, so. Trust but verify, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
The outcomes they were able to balance these 7 country payrolls in one day. So
wow.
Like with a parallel process. So it's huge. But there's a lot more work to do because I think they need to explain how it works for payroll professionals, because we don't trust very easily. So
no, the danger is having all these young folk come into the marketplace, into the jobs, and not knowing what could go wrong, where I think we live in fear from experience.
That's PTSD.
Yeah.
Well, we also live in fear by having done manually that job, having seen manually how the number can go wrong. I wonder how the next generation that comes in and never see those numbers.
Right.
That sees what goes in and see what comes out. Maybe they'll never have to wonder about what happens in the middle.
And then there's the trust part, because we understand where it goes wrong and we can go fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you don't understand that middle part, I don't know. It's like you have to trust.
You have to trust. And then how will you identify if something goes wrong?
With AI. Come on,
Again.
Maybe we'll equalize everything. Everybody get the same income, the same tax rate, and the same everything. And then we'll all sail in the sunset.
We can't have equality.
Never going to happen. Yeah, no. Never going to happen.
No. Agreed. Well, folks, we can keep talking about that, and we will keep talking about all this, I'm sure, in the future. I think it has been super interesting to hear your point of view, Todd. I love that.
Always.
I enjoy listening to you guys for sure. Teach me a lot.
That's a work in progress. We're all work in progress, and that's what I love of this group.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being available for this.
Todd. This was very stimulating.
Yeah, everybody's going to go, I need a nap.
Overstimulated suddenly. And well, thank you for everybody for listening to our ramble. I hope you learned something. Put down a comments if you have a question or a suggestion for the future. And up to the next time. Thanks to everybody.
See ya.
Thanks, Todd, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay.